welcome to another episode of the Intelligence Report. Well, I know you've been watching, some of you, and please like and subscribe, tell your friends all about this. We want to get a little bit deeper into who Mystery Babylon is. And today, what you're going to hear is the testimony of different people who have had dreams about the destruction, unfortunately, of the United States of America. And also, we're going to dig a little bit deeper into the scriptures, because other than Revelation 17 and 18, there are other scriptures in the Bible which speak about Mystery Babylon. So stay tuned.
I had a dream where I was in a house and I was looking out the window and I noticed a huge sinkhole in the middle of the street, and all of the neighbors were gathering around looking down into the sinkhole, and I knew that I was getting ready for a wedding. So I was inside trying to find something to wear for the wedding, but I happened to look out the front window, and what I seen was the sinkhole, but inside the sinkhole was our military, and they were all thrown in there like a bunch of ants, and they were all crawling on top of each other trying to get out of the sinkhole, but not one of them made it out of the sinkhole. I also had dreams where I seen Humvees on our soil, and it looked like they were going from the north. Either they were going north to south, or they were going east to west.
Dimitri, be quiet.
Urcă-te lângă mine.
Get beside me.
N-ai voie să mai vorbești.
You're not allowed to speak from now on.
M-am urcat lângă el,
I
fraților.
got beside the angel brothers.
Ce aparatul a avut, nu știu.
I don't know what the device was,
Că așa mergea că nu puteam să văd nimic.
but it traveled so fast that you couldn't see
Numai
anything.
ne-arăta aici în California.
He'd just say, this is California.
Aici e Las Vegas.
This is Las Vegas.
Vezi ce ți-am arătat?
What I have shown you
E Sodoma și Gomora.
is that Sodom and Gomorrah.
Păcatul i-a ajuns înaintea lui
Its
Dumnezeu.
sin has reached God,
Și Dumnezeu a hotărât să o pedepsească prin
and
foc.
God has decided to punish it through fire.
Într-o zi va arde.
And one day it will burn.
M-a dus și ne-a arătat New York.
He came and showed me New York.
Aici e New York.
This is New York.
Aici e Sodoma și
It is
Gomora.
also as Sodom and Gomorrah.
Într-o zi va arde.
And one day it will burn.
M-a dus și ne-a arătat
He
Florida.
came and he showed me Florida.
Aici e Florida, zice.
This is Florida, he
Aici e
said.
Sodoma și Gomora.
This is as Sodom and Gomorrah.
Într-o zi va arde.
And one day it will burn.
Dar cu mine ce ai să
I
faci?
said, what will you do with me though?
Ți-am spus să taci.
He said, I told you to be quiet.
Și m-a dus la locul de unde m-a luat.
And he brought me back to the place we left.
Acum stai de vorbă cu
He
mine.
said, now we talk.
Te-am adus în țara asta.
I brought you to this country
Iubesc țara asta.
because I love this country.
Iubesc poporul din țara
I
asta.
love the people in this
Și
country.
prin gura ta vreau să trezesc mult
And through your
popor.
mouth, I want to wake up a lot of people.
Cum ai să-l trezești prin gura mea? Zic?
Well, how can you wake them through my
Eu
mouth?
nu pot vorbi cu nimeni.
I can't speak to
Cine
anyone.
mă cunoaște pe mine?
Who knows me
Cine
here?
mă cheamă pe mine?
Who will even call me?
Tu nu te interesează.
He says, that's not your worry.
Eu voi merge înaintea ta.
I will be before you.
Voi face mari lucrări în poporul
I
american.
will do great works amongst the American people.
Eu îți voi pregăti prin cine să
I will
vorbești.
prepare someone for you to speak through.
Dar tu să spui tot ce-ți voi
But you must
spune
tell them
eu.
everything that I tell you.
America va arde.
Again, he said, America will
Cum
burn.
să ardă America, că America e
I
puternică?
said, but how can America burn when it's so
Tu
powerful?
ține minte așa să le
He said,
spui.
remember and tell them.
Ai să ajungi la televizor.
He said, you reach TV stations and radio
Ai să ajungi în
stations
biserică.
and
Să
churches.
spui tot ce spun eu.
But tell them everything I
Să
tell you.
n-ascunzi nimica.
Hide nothing.
America va arde.
America will burn.
Cum va arde America?
But again, how will it burn?
Tu așa să le spui.
He said, tell them this.
Spionajul sovietic
The Russian
au
spies
descoperit cele mai puternice depozite nucleare
have found
americane.
out where the most powerful nuclear plants in America
Când
are.
americanii vor crede că e pace și
When
liniște,
Americans will think it's peace and
toate
quiet
lucrurile sunt
and
bune.
everything's perfect.
Unele popoare dinăuntru
Some groups from the
vor
inside
începe să se revolte împotriva
will
guvernului.
revolt against the government.
Guvernul va fi ocupat cu
The
revoluția
government will be occupied with the
și
revolution,
atunci de pe ocean,
and then from the ocean,
din Cuba,
out of Cuba,
Nicaragua,
Nicaragua,
America Centrală,
Central America,
Mexico
Mexico,
și ne-au mai spus două țări, dar nu le țin
and
minte.
two other countries that I can't remember.
Va bombarda depozite nucleare
They
americane
will bombard the nuclear plants in
și
America,
America va lua foc.
and America will burn.
Dar ce faci cu biserica?
I said, what will you do with the church though?
Unele biserici m-au
He
părăsit.
said, many churches have left me.
Cum n-ai tu oameni aici?
I said, what do you mean don't you have people here?
Tu așa să le
He
spui.
said, tell them this.
Oamenii să slăvesc pe oameni.
People glorify people.
Cinstea care se cuvine să o dea
The
lui
honor that
Hristos,
Christ deserves,
oamenii și-o ia asupra lor.
man takes upon himself.
În biserică,
In the church,
divorțul,
there's divorce,
preacurvie,
there's adultery,
sodomie,
there's sodomy,
avortul
there's abortion,
și tot felul de păcat.
and all kinds of sin.
Și Hristos nu locuiește în
And
păcat.
Christ will not live in sin.
Hristos locuiește în sfințenie.
Christ lives in holiness.
Și te-am adus pe tine aici.
And I brought you here
Să strângi în gura mare.
that you cry out loud.
Să nu-ți fie frică că
Don't
eu
be
sunt cu
afraid,
tine.
for I am with you.
Să se oprească de-a
Tell them
păcătuie.
to stop sinning
Să se întoarcă către Dumnezeu.
and to repent,
Că Dumnezeu nu obosește iertând.
because God never stops forgiving.
Și toți care se vor opri de la
And
păcatele
all of
lor
those who will stop sinning
se vor înturna către
and
Dumnezeu.
will repent,
În ziua nenorocirii Dumnezeu îi va salva.
God will save in the day of trouble.
Cum poți tu să-mi salvezi dacă arde America?
But how can He save them if America burns, though?
Tu așa să le spui.
He said, tell them,
Cum am salvat pe cei tineri din cuptorul cu foc,
as He saved the 3 young ones in the furnace,
îi voi salva și pe ei.
that is how He will save them.
Cum am salvat pe Daniel din gura
As He saved
leilor,
Daniel from the
îi
lions,
voi salva și pe
that
ei.
is how He will save them.
Numai să se întoarcă către
But they
Dumnezeu.
must repent.
Fraților, nu ne cere un lucru greu.
Brothers, God does not ask hard things of us.
Opriți-vă de la
Dream, the Lord showed me a massive earthquake that was going to happen in America, and it was the Madrid fault, and this was literally it was the largest earthquake that ever had happened on the earth. And so whenever I saw it in my dream, it happened right by the Mississippi River, and it's like it split the Mississippi River and it made it bigger. And all the bridges that were on the Mississippi River collapsed, and they were all down. And the Lord showed me things were on fire. It was just total devastation where this was. And I could see it. It went clear down to New Orleans area. It went clear up into Chicago area. It was like it was massive, and all the bridges, like I said, fell. But there was no way for the semi trucks to go from east to west. So they brought in these bridges that were on the army. They were like floating bridges, and the army brought them in, and they put them in all on up and down where the highways were, trying to make it where trucks could come in and out for emergencies. But they couldn't get the trucks from east to west, so they brought in planes, and the planes came in and they flew the food in to cities to get where the semi trucks couldn't get back and forth. They bring the food in, and they were trying to bring it in on humongous cargo planes, and they were flying it in so that the food could get throughout all the cities still in America. This was another dream. And then the Lord showed me massive helicopters, and they're the Chinook helicopters, and they were flying from the west. And I stood on the back porch in my dream, and I could see, and you could visibly smell fire in the air, and it was so strong that it was like you could like how you see a haze from the fire whenever there's a grass fire. And so I could see, you could hear the helicopters flying low, and they were all coming like in lines. They were all in lines, and the helicopters were coming from the west coast, and they were going to the east coast. And it was where I live is in the central part of America. And so you could hear them coming, and they were so loud because there were so many of them at a time. They were all flying in formation, but there was probably like 30, 40 of them at a time. But it was so much, it would shake the houses.
I was in a larger city, and there was no power. There were leaflets being dropped from the sky, and I don't remember what those leaflets said. But I do remember that I then saw troops marching from the south. Now, I live in South Texas, okay? And these troops were not American troops. These troops were Russian troops, and they were marching from the south, from Mexico. Now, these troops were very downtrodden. They were just worn out. They were just, you could tell they were completely exhausted. And they were not showing any aggression at all. The troops were not. And I don't remember them having any weapons either, which was very strange. But one thing that I do remember is that the people, the citizens, were showing compassion towards the troops, and we were bringing them water. We were bringing them food, because we're people. We are all citizens. What our government does not always reflect what we feel. And war is not good. Nobody wants war. Even troops. Troops don't want to go to war. The vast majority of them. And so people were showing compassion towards these troops. And somewhere amongst the dream, I had also heard that there were Chinese troops marching into the U.S. as well, but they were coming from Canada, coming across the northern border. Very strange.
And I started to see military soldiers and dressed in military attire or camouflage type attire. And I started to see missiles, nuclear missiles being launched. I saw tanks, war tanks down on the streets. I saw UN peacekeepers marching on the streets. Again, I saw more nuclear missiles. I saw a lot of missiles being launched. And then suddenly I'm seeing a flash vision of war submarines coming up from the sea. And the Lord letting me know that war is at the door, that an invasion is at the door, that war is at the door, and that changes are coming to this nation that will affect all of our lives. So that was one vision that I had. The Lord insisted that I shared a couple of dreams of Russia again. Just really insisted that I share the dreams of Russia. And so I want to share this one. This one was given on 2018, January 11th, 2018. And it began with me seeing several explosions. I could see several explosions to buildings. They were either coming from Russia or something that Russia caused to the USA. So it was something that had to do with the Russia had done to the USA. And the explosions were very, very significant, very severe. I could see them just blowing up, boom, just blowing up structure after structure and buildings. Much destruction. And so I don't know what they used, if it was missiles but definitely bombs were going off. And I also could see again several buildings blowing up, and one by one I saw them blowing up. I've had another dream in the past, or a vision, where I saw the Lord just brings it back to my mind, but it was I was raised above the America, the cities of America, and I could see everything was black and white. It was nighttime, and I could see these planes suddenly showed up, and they started dropping missiles and dropping bombs on the cities, and I could see the buildings just exploding. And I could hear the men on the planes that were attacking us saying, "Let's hit them while they sleep. Let's hit them while they sleep." In other words, to do it when we were not aware. and there were devastation was very, very destructive. I could hear the alarms of nuclear alarms going off through the cities. I could hear like the radio giving warnings to people to stay inside, but even the people that were staying inside were being crushed in their buildings and in their homes.
If we look in the news lately, you'll hear a lot about issues between the United States, Israel, and Iran.
Some major breaking news just into CNN. According to a U.S. defense official, Iran just seized U.S. Navy boats. 10 American sailors have been detained. This is breaking news right now. Let's bring in CNN Chief National Security Correspondent Jim Sciutto. Jim, what can you tell us?
Jake, a potentially alarming situation underway, certainly serious. We have word from both defense officials and a senior administration official that 2 small U.S. Navy boats, they were in transit from Kuwait rather, to Bahrain, that they were detained by Iranian naval vessels with 10 U.S. sailors on board. The U.S. has since been in touch with Iranian authorities who confirm that those 10 sailors are in Iranian custody, although the senior administration official tells us that they've been assured by Iranian authorities that they will soon be released. They've been assured that they are healthy and in good condition. Regardless, however, in those dangerous waters, they're a conflict between, really military, between U.S. and Iran. Just to have those sailors in Iranian custody, rather. Certainly.
Let's read from Isaiah chapter 13. I'm going to read from the verse 1 to the verse 5, and then from the verse 17 to the verse 22. Let's go. The burden of Babylon, which Isaiah the son of Amoz did see. Lift ye up a banner upon the high mountain, exalt the voice unto them, shake the hand, that they may go into the gates of the nobles. I have commanded my sanctified ones. I have also called my mighty ones for mine anger, even them that rejoice in my highness. The noise of a multitude in the mountains, like as of a great people, a tumultuous noise of the kingdoms of nations gathered together. The Lord of hosts mustereth the host of the battle. They come from a far country, from the end of heaven, even the Lord and the weapons of his indignation, to destroy the whole land. But the question we need to ask concerning Mystery Babylon is there anything in the scriptures that tell us that the present day Iran will be one of those nations that actually goes to war against Mystery Babylon and brings an annihilation to Mystery Babylon?
Yeah. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, he says Iran can have a civilian nuclear program, but it's got to give up its enrichment of uranium. That program's got to be given up. Is America making compromises with Iran?
Well, not necessarily on this one. On this one, you know, this is the same deal we gave our friends, the Emirates, where we said, look, it's sort of what's called the gold standard. If you want nuclear power, you can have civilian nuclear power, but we're going to have to give you the enriched materials, only enough to use for civilian program. We're not going to let you domestically enrich. Unfortunately, President Obama unwound that and allowed them to have enrichment domestically. That was part of the problem with the old nuclear deal. If Secretary Rubio is right, that could make a big difference. The problem is it's different than what Steve Witkoff, who was there negotiating with Iran just last week, said. He seemed to suggest they could have an enrichment program, just a low enrichment program. That's sort of like the Obama deal. So it's unclear what the administration's position is. Is it the Rubio position, the Witkoff position, or something else altogether?
Rubio says war with Iran would be, quote, much messier than what people are used to seeing. How would you put it? What's the risk of war with Iran now?
Well, look, the reality is that we cannot, neither the United States nor our partners in Israel nor the other Arab nations that we're friends with can accept a nuclear armed Iran. And so something's going to happen, either a deal that's a real deal, that's not a weak deal like the Obama deal, or there's going to be action taken against this program. It's just not acceptable for them to have a nuclear weapon the way they're behaving, supporting terrorists, including the Houthis and Hamas and all these other groups. And so if it needs to be a war, the U.S. needs to be prepared to take out the nuclear program. I don't think Iran wants or could win a war with the United States, so they better not provoke it.
Behold, I will stir up the Medes against them, which shall not regard silver, and as for gold, they shall not delight in it. Their bows also shall dash the young men to pieces, and they shall have no pity on the fruit of the womb. Their eyes shall not spare children. And Babylon, the glory of kingdoms, the beauty of the Chaldees' excellency, shall be as when God overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah. It shall never be inhabited, neither shall it be dwelt in from generation to generation. Neither shall the Arabian pitch tent there, neither shall the shepherds make their fold there, but wild beasts of the desert shall lie there, and their houses shall be full of doleful creatures, and owls shall dwell there, and satyrs shall dance there. Doesn't that sound like the book of Revelation? And the wild beasts of the islands shall cry in their desolate houses, and dragons in their pleasant palaces, and her time is near to come. All her days shall not be prolonged. The destruction of Babylon, as seen in Isaiah 13, did not take place in the historical defeat under King Cyrus. In Isaiah 13, we're told of the destruction of not only the structure of the empire, but also the inhabitants. This never happened because the prophet Daniel did not narrate such a catastrophe when he served in exile under the Babylonians and then the Persians. This gives us a clue that Isaiah was prophesying about a future Babylon. One of the things we must understand about the nation of Iran is that it is located exactly in the same place as ancient Persia. America began to make enemies with this former ally during the 1970s when it backed the autocratic government of the Shah of Iran. This then led to the Islamic Revolution, which was led by the Ayatollah Khomeini, who overthrew the Shah. Tensions have mounted ever since, especially with the modern state of Israel as a United States proxy. So when the scriptures speak of conflict with the Medes, the ancient prophets warned us of a future escalation between a future Babylon and a set of people called the Medes. Could this be Iran? As much as Donald Trump has been trying to make peace with the state of Iran, we find its ally, Israel, still in the background doing things to make sure that this peace doesn't happen because they desire the complete destruction of the nuclear weapons in that country. If you know anything about Persian history, they're famous for their assassins. The Hashashin were mysterious assassins who originated in Persia and spread across the Middle East. Hassan-i Saba formed the Hashashins to secretly challenge Sunni leaders and protect Nizari Ismailis. The legends are based on the Nizari Ismailis, a breakaway group from the Ismaili branch of Shia Islam that occupied a string of mountain castles in Syria and Iran from the end of the 11th century until the Mongol conquest in the middle of the 13th century. Iran is not a country foreign to warfare. They currently supply Russia with advanced drone technology and are said to have top secret weapons that not many know about. So recently we've had trade wars, and one of the casualties of the trade wars has been China.
Hi, I'm Steve Clemens, and I have a question. Donald Trump is throwing a big wrench into the wheels of global business and starting a trade war with China. But is it a war that he can win?
He wanted the world's attention. And he got it.
Donald Trump a sorti l'artillerie lourde pour, dit-il, rendre.
The consequences will be dire for millions of people around the globe.
This is not the act of a friend.
Yesterday's actions by the U.S. administration will rupture the global economy.
Keir Starmer held a breakfast meeting with industry bosses.
Clearly, there will be an economic impact from the decisions that the US has taken, both here and globally.
But before China was in the picture, we had issues with Russia because of Ukraine.
Russia launched one of the deadliest attacks on Ukraine since last summer. It came just hours after President Trump said, we're getting closer to a peace deal. Watch.
I think we have a deal with Russia. We have to get a deal with Zelensky, and I hope that Zelensky, I thought it might be easier to deal with Zelensky. So far, it's been harder.
And what we need to understand is that the scriptures speak of a country, I believe, north of America, going through the land bridge through Alaska. And when you pass through that land bridge, you're going to end up in Russia and the countries of the former Soviet Union. And the scriptures tell us, I believe, that America will be invaded from the north. And so a huge army will pass through the north, pass through Canada, and come into the continental United States and bring about its destruction.
Many theologians have claimed that Jeremiah the prophet made an error in chapter 50. However, when we scrutinize Jeremiah chapter 50, we're given some clues that make it clear that he was not prophesying to Babylon of old. Jeremiah chapter 50, verses 3 to 9. For out of the north there cometh up a nation against her, which shall make her land desolate, and none shall dwell therein. They shall remove. They shall depart both man and beast. In those days and in that time, saith the Lord, the children of Israel shall come, they and the children of Judah together, going and weeping. They shall go and seek the Lord their God. They shall ask the way to Zion, with their faces thitherward, saying, Come, and let us join ourselves to the Lord in perpetual covenant that shall not be forgotten. My people have been lost sheep. Their shepherds have caused them to go astray. They have turned them away on the mountains. They have gone from mountain to hill. They have forgotten their resting place. All that found them have devoured them, and their adversaries said, We offend not, because they have sinned against the Lord, the habitation of justice. Even the Lord, the hope of their fathers. Remove out of the midst of Babylon, and go forth out of the land of the Chaldeans, and be as the he-goats before the flocks. For lo, I will raise and cause up to come against Babylon an assembly of great nations from the north country, and they shall set themselves in array against her. From thence she shall be taken. Their arrows shall be as of a mighty expert man. None shall return in vain. Verses 3 to 9 of Jeremiah chapter 50 tell us that a nation from the north will invade Babylon. If it is America, the invading countries could easily be Russia and other Eastern European nations. Your mother shall be sore confounded. She that bare you shall be ashamed. Behold, the hindermost of the nations shall be a wilderness, a dry land, and a desert. The verse 12 of Jeremiah chapter 50 says, Your mother shall be confounded. Could this be the United Kingdom? Remember, this is another country that bears the icon of a woman and was extremely active in the establishing of the United States. Verse 12 also calls This country, the United States, I believe, in my personal opinion, the hindermost of the nations in the King James Version. This could not have been ancient Babylon, because hindermost means furthest away, which would be a more fitting description for the geographical location of the United States. Because of the wrath of the Lord, it shall not be inhabited, but it shall be wholly desolate. Everyone that goeth by Babylon shall be astonished, and hiss at all her plagues. In verse 13, the prophet mentions people in astonishment at the plagues that will hit this Babylon. This is very similar to Mystery Babylon, which will become uninhabited due to the level of destruction. Jeremiah 50 and the verse 23 says, "How is the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder and broken? How is Babylon become a desolation among the nations?" Verse 23 calls this nation, which I believe is the United States, the hammer of the earth. The United States has been at war since its birth and has been dubbed by some as the police force of the world. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, the children of Israel and the children of Judah were oppressed together, and all that took them captives held them fast. They refused to let them go. One of the main reasons for this punishment is because of what Mystery Babylon did to the children of Israel and Judah, which is stated in verse 33. If you confuse the present-day Ashkenazi with ancient Israel and Judah, you will not understand this prophecy. America has stood defiant with the present-day state of Israel, creating the impression that the people now dwelling there are the descendants of the true people of the book. However, the identity of the real people living in America is African Americans who were taken captive into slavery. They were not compensated for the atrocities committed against them and have continued to suffer at the hands of the new Chaldeans. So the African Americans in America are the descendants of Abraham that the Lord will punish the United States for this is one of the atrocities. Slavery is one of the atrocities that the Lord will judge the United States for.
And so we need to understand that the fall of Babylon is imminent, because enemies are being created every day through the different laws and through the different actions, including these trade wars that are taking place now. And sooner or later, there will be enough enemies that gather together in a coalition to bring about the complete downfall of Mystery Babylon. And so the scripture says, "Come out of her."